Morning, everybody.
Morning. I got a new creamer and it's been an interesting flavor of strawberry and caramel.
I haven't seen that one yet. I saw the strawberry chocolate before, and it was meh.
Pretty sure your TikTok is just encompassing how I'm feeling right now. So
Slightly glitchy and delayed.
yeah.
Good? It's good now, right? No sticker? Just leave it then. No one sees it. We're good.
No sticky.
Not a big deal. Just leave it. We will just leave it. Get this party started.
The sticker's just been
better way.
It's fine.
How's everybody's morning so far?
It's good.
Mine started at about 5 a.m. So
Yeah,
No,
6:30.
Wanted to start off by asking you two how you see negativity affecting your lives.
for me, someone's trying to tear me down every day. I don't know why they feel the need like that's okay or whatever. But I've had to learn how to just say, no, you're trying to tear me down. I'm on a different level than you, and you can try to tear me down all you want, but you just can't reach me anymore. And that seems to be like that in my day-to-day life, like everywhere. Everywhere I turn, there's always somebody trying to just claw at me.
What about you, the dad?
Been super lucky. I've seen it. I've seen it in your live. I've seen it. I've seen it in bites. Just quickly, just comment here and there. You know, sideways comment. I've seen it a lot in mine, but the community seems to support so quickly. I don't even have to acknowledge it, but when I do acknowledge it, it's either a turning point or it's not. And I don't mean for me, it's for the other person. So it's not something that I pay too much attention to.
So like we're more directed to like how negativity affects your life was more the question. So just to like recalibrate.
I think most of the negativity that I experience isn't from outside, it's from inside, and that's my huge struggle. The outside stuff doesn't bother me too much. It's the inside from previous patterns.
I'm the opposite of you. I have a lot of outside negativity pressure in my life, and inside, I'm generally a very happy person. So like inside out, I'm fine. Outside in, boy, people judge. Like, and I can even give you an example. Thursday, I was outside going to my truck in the morning, and one of my neighbors decided to say, "How can a guy like you afford a truck like that?" Legitimately said to me. I was like, "Pardon you?" That was Thursday.
And I think between the two of you, I'm like a balance. Got some internal struggles and some external struggles. And I think not trying to be oversensitive to the outside and then not trying to overthink on the inside. It's where I think and I think that's easy for all of us to overthink inside our head until you write things down or bring them out. So our brain doesn't organize things the way that life moves. So I find that to be kind of important to remind myself that. the way I see things isn't going to be the way the world sees things. And then that kind of relieves my internal. Because I will overthink, I will be oversensitive, and then I'll just brush it off with comedy on the outside or something, right? Just to make it, I'll smile it off, or when things are affecting me. I wear my heart on my sleeve, so.
Do you have to wait a few days to process? Or can
20.
you process right away?
I process right away, but to make sure that was a clear thought of who I am, 24-hour rule has got to be the most important thing for just about anything. 24 hours is so important. Lets you live a whole day, find out how important that thought was. Thought might not be so important even 6 hours later, but it really got you tweaked in that moment. So coming back to that thought later just gives you another fresh outside-in perspective after a bunch of events have changed. And if they're still pretty major, it'll be at the front of your conscious to deal with, is what I find.
What about you, the dad? How do you process?
I'm still learning that one. I think over time I've changed. I try not to react to stuff, and the stuff that's really important. I seem to not notice that it sneaks up on me, and I have a reaction without really noticing until it's hit hard, and that's part of the inside negativity that I was talking about. It's hard not to create the same patterns when you think you're progressing, but it comes back almost in a different way, because I've learned to pretty well, I think, ignore all the outside stuff. The occasional time, like it's, some people always say stuff or stuff happens outside and you're like, okay, but it's very minimal compared to the inside, and how to process that. It's I'm still learning. So
For
lately
me,
it seems daily it's different, which is mildly concerning at times, but
I find myself to be a 3-day rule.
3
Takes
days.
me a day to digest, a day to process what I've heard, and then a day to formulate a proper answer to said item, whatever it might be. Because I can often knee-jerk a response, but is it truly my response? Maybe, maybe not. I find that knee-jerk response for me is like a 50-50. It could either be what I truly feel, or after 3 days it's been modified to a certain extent, depending on what it is.
I was just talking to somebody like that last night, actually. And I will get a voice note or a message based on a conversation 2 or 3 days later, or a very long message after the process, after the thought. Whereas I'm almost immediate with the response, and I'll think real time.
Well, I often challenge myself. Like, do you actually feel like that? What are the reasons to why I feel like that?
Yeah, like validating your feelings.
Yeah. Because often, like me being an Aries person, I'm very headstrong, front forward, which means like I'll just bulldoze, and then not worry about the aftermath until after sometimes. So I take the time after to process what happened, so that I was like, was I in the right to bulldoze them, or should I turn around and try to repair? Because like, and then kind of circle back after. How do you guys strategize the difference between toxic text and toxic talkers and people who are actually giving you like constructive criticism?
So, like, someone that's critiquing you with what perspective?
So, like, you look better in a purple shirt versus a orange shirt or a yellow shirt. And then someone being like, you just look ugly today, for example. How do you determine the difference between them while you're live?
I naturally try to just brush everything off with humor. Either way, I just, here for entertainment. So that's a huge thing for me is, um, I would say in general, my reaction is sometimes anyone can hit a nerve, but in general, if you wouldn't take advice from that like if you wouldn't, you don't really know them very well or you don't know anything. So it can cause growth, but for the most part, I just take it as someone just trying to get a reaction out of you. Like I take that as that negative component. Like they might not even they might not even have any backing to that thought. They're putting that thought out there just to get the reaction more than any factual basis. So maybe I have to oh, did I maybe just wake up and I don't look like my best? So maybe that's like an extension of one tiny little thing that went extremely negative, or it's just particularly constructive. And they just mean it as a way of like a tough love brush up. So that's definitely my norm.
What about you, Ted?
I'd say it's very seasonal. No, it's situational. It's like you said, Zen. You consider the source, take it with a grain of salt type thing. What is it? Is it worth replying to? Is it something that was meant with malice or like ill intent? Was it? Am I in a different spot? Same type of thing. Like, did I hear that correctly? Uh, you got to take it at face value how it was delivered.
What if
What
it
the
wasn't
intent
directed
was.
to you, though? Like, what if it was directed to your best mod in your chat, the one that's the closest to you? Would you react then, or would you not?
I definitely react when it's one of the like in my lives. That's one of the rules. You can say whatever you want to me. It's not going to affect me at all. It's when you go after other people in the community. That's when there's usually something to be said or an action to be taken. Because if it's to me, it's kind of humorous. Like in-person reaction to negativity is different, or like out in public, like you experienced with your neighbor, as opposed to in the chat. In the chat, it's kind of like you can brush it off with humor because it's really just a block away, and you don't ever have to see it again or think about it. Like in public, you may have to see that person again, but if it's towards somebody else, I tend to act or react rather quickly and address it uh, with the importance, again, situational and how it's said and meant. Depending on what is said, that's usually how aggressive I will be to address it, like how quickly and what's done. If it's just downright disrespectful negativity, there's no room for a conversation. It's just get it out of there. But if it's kind of backhanded, maybe that person could take it, maybe they can't. I'll usually jump in and say something and deal with it that way. I think in person that you can relate the same way. Like if you see something that's very ill-tempered, you tend to react a little more sternly, right? Whereas if it's just something that is day to day, which I think is not the right way to do it, but you kind of ignore it and address it only if you have to. So maybe that might be like in society something that we all have to look at. Maybe address the minor stuff, the minor negativity a little quicker.
Hmm. I find some of that comes from hurt though, like a lot of negativity. It just stems from hurt. So like I don't think if anyone was super happy, had everything in the world going for them, I really I think you'd find a lot less negative people. And I think that's something that's hard to change. And that's why I brush off a lot of small stuff if I can. And I'm trying to get better at doing that. Because I might have been the trigger for the comment, but I think they already came in on the, like, you know, someone already came into your life in the bad mood. It's rare that I'm going to cause someone to go into the negatives based off of a neutral reaction, I think. And then, so like my oversensitivity wants to deal with it, but realistically, like I'm very unlikely the cause of that nature. So I think that's something that maybe I need to analyze better, like on a day to day, because it's hard to know, right? If it's actually targeted at you out of a negative thought, or they just came in negative and they're just throwing, and whatever's in their way is getting hit. So I find that that's hard to deal with, like strategically, I guess, too, right? With running a live environment as opposed to being out in the world. Because being out in the world, you just keep you could just keep walking, keep going, and then that changes the whole game of how aggressive or intrusive that person wants to be with that negativity, right? Online, I find it's just very easy to not get your fill. Because if you're searching for a reaction to make you feel better, right? That's really where that's stemming from. And that root is someone already hurt. So my biggest thing is just making sure that I don't affect someone negatively if I can help it. We're all people.
Yeah, it's like the difference between somebody that says something to you from a distance and somebody that makes their way across the street to get in your face.
Yeah, exactly. Those are two different.
Yeah, it both stems from the same thing, like you said. It's hurt or something that their day's gone wrong and they don't know how to communicate how they're actually feeling, so they just spit fire, and it's either through a keyboard or whatever it is, throwing hands or just saying stuff.
Yeah. So that being said, how have you built? Well, ask the dad first. So how have you built filters around that, whether it be real life or online? Just handling negativity. What kind of, like, how have you built filters, and like what kind?
I've actually said that exact thing to people in my chat that have come in and said inappropriate things, and luckily I've been able to turn around a couple so that they've apologized and said kind things, or carried on a conversation. One person actually apologized and said, "Sorry, I just lost a family member," and they were just venting on people just saying mean things, and they started picking on a community member. And I just said, "Hey, you're welcome to be here." It's just kind of like kill it with kindness type thing. It was, you're welcome to be here, but you have to understand you need to be respectful and kind. And sometimes people don't understand how to communicate what they're feeling, but this is a safe place. And that worked. And other times it hasn't. They've maybe said a kind word and then switched that around back to the negativity, which, I mean, you give the chance. So you try and see what it's all about, filter through it a bit. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And I think I'm the same in real life too. It's that try and ignore it a bit and then see if it continues, maybe ask a question. Like you need to understand the source, because I'm comfortable enough with taking it. Like you could throw it on me, it's fine. But when I see it with other people, it's like, hey, what's the root here? Like, why are you doing this? Just
So
to try
what?
and protect and find out why it's happening.
So how would you filter out something that needs a response against something that doesn't need a response, like for yourself, online or offline? Really, like looking for like a life answer.
The context of the comment, the way it was worded, it sometimes it's a quick glance over the comment as far as lives go. Do I need to justify it? Is this going to continue on? Because sometimes it's a one-time comment. I think it's like we'll respond with humor because some of the comments are actually funny to read with people trying to troll, right? And I think it's like that in life too. I've been in circumstances where people have said, things that I find very amusing, and it's meant to be hurtful, but it's kind of funny. So I'll respond in kind with, hey, that's pretty funny. Not too smart, but funny. I don't know. As far as the filter goes, I guess the importance and does it strike a nerve? I used to have less of an ability to filter. I think I'm pretty good at it now, where it's kind of it doesn't really affect me because the outside stuff really doesn't matter. It's more when it affects the people around me that I get not triggered, but that I think there's a reaction required. So I tend to pay more attention to that. As far as what it is, it has to be how severe it is. That would be the filter. You kind of look at it, quickly rate that potential of damage, I think. Assess the damage as quickly as you can. Potential damage.
What about you, Bypass?
I have a thing called a bolometer in my brain. So like a scale from 1 to 10. And I will basically not react to anything that's like a 4 and below, where I would categorize something. In between like a 5 and an 8, you probably get a witty response, or maybe you should rethink your life kind of conversation. Anything after that, it's going to be like a you've stepped over the line and do it 2 more times and find out kind of situation. And I run my whole life almost on that same scale, not just on bullshit. Excuse my language there, but also like anything. Somebody comes up to me and is like super bubbly, you get the same scale. Like, okay, because some people can be too much. So then I'll be the same thing and be like, okay, where are you on the scale for me? Same on the negative comments, same kind of thing. I need a balance in my life a little bit in order to be able to function. So that scale has been very helpful. If it's under a 4, I might not even respond. Just be like, you're having a bad day today. Because you never know where the other person is and where they're coming from. So unless like they'll tell you, but there's oftentimes people won't, right? You don't know if like somebody just passed away, they lost their pet, they lost their job, they won the lottery. Like you don't know, right? So I use that scale for me so that I can better judge on a faster pace.
Nice. I like that. Do you have anything that would trigger your scale to change all of a sudden one way or the other? Like something going on in your life that would change maybe your ability to view your own scale?
No, that scale hasn't moved or changed in over 20 years.
So you operate off of the same principles and judgments that have led you the right way.
Yeah, 100%. And it's not steered me wrong having that scale in place. To be frank with the both of you, yes, you get like less friends because they feel judged or whatever. But the friends you have that are around you in that circle when you run a platform like that are like ride or dies. They'll do anything for you. You'll do anything for them. And it's not steered me wrong.
So does that, to continue on Zen's question, does that not ever change a bit with you depending on your state, like your emotion or anything? You can even keel and look at pretty much most situations with that same
Yeah.
kind
So
of.
I'm a person, which I've mentioned in a previous podcast, who can pull myself out of a situation and look at all sides of the situation, like a cube, right? So I can pull my emotions out and put them to the side for the time being. Like not permanently, but I can be like, for 10 minutes and being like, okay, I'm upset. Why am I upset? What's the situation like and what are all the outcomes? And I do that for everything in my life. That's like my job. That's my partner. That's like what we're going to have for dinner this week. The whole situation. Like that's how I run my entire life. And I'm able to stop for a minute and be like, okay, so I'm seeing it from this side of the cube. What's the other three sides? What do they look like? And what potentials are they coming from? And then I put all of that in the scale. And that's how I usually come up with my number. And I can do that cube review pretty quickly. So it is to say that my perception can change the scale. It usually doesn't. And in my entire life, I think one time where my emotions overtook that situation, and I was younger then too. So that also probably played, the maturity role probably played a role there. But I was right because I overturned that one decision and it bit me in the butt again the second time with that particular situation. And I was right the first time. I hope that answers your question.
It definitely does.
So we were talking about before, we talked about someone coming in and saying, you're ugly against your shirt's the wrong color or something, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to follow up with something like that and say, either of you, when was a moment, try to think, but a moment where someone came in and said something that might have been negative, but ended up actually teaching you something valuable. So even though it was perceived as negative by everyone, where's a situation where you're able to spin that around and pull something that led you to improvement or an adjustment that led to a positive change?
I have something that wasn't on live. Would that count?
Sure. This is
Okay. So
life.
I don't know if people know or not, but I am a member of the Rainbow Warriors Club. In that comes some unique views of life, and not everyone shares that same view. I was 19 years old at the time, and I had this view of I am going to be who I am, and everyone else can F themselves. Young and naive 19-year-old. So I got put in my place about how my life could alter somebody else's life just by that view. And they changed my entire perception of going forward about how people perceive that whole group of people. Meaning that you can have a conversation with somebody that disagrees with what your beliefs are, and that you can have a civil conversation about it and understand their point of view, even though it's not your point of view. That was a life lesson I learned. That was very negative at first, but had a conversation about it and then came to an understanding of where they were coming from. Because at the original part of that conversation, I didn't care. I didn't care what they had to say. I didn't care what their view was. But then I took the time to actually listen to what they had to say, and I was like, okay, well, I get where you're coming from, even though I disagree with you, obviously. And that changed my perception of almost everything later in life. Because I use that same kind of mythology and thought pattern of, well, okay, and that's where the cube thing came from, was that exact conversation. Because then it made me think about all of the possible outcomes instead of just the one that I'm seeing.
And that's I like that. And so has that issue ever repeated itself? Like that you've been like it's came back and you've been able to handle it better?
Oh, yeah. Every day of my life, something like that comes up. Whether it's in a grocery store, whether it's doing PDA, whether it's, just general conversation like this, somebody's got something to say. And I usually no longer respond hatefully. Because you came at me hatefully, I don't anymore. Because I've realized that it's an understanding issue, not a direct attack at me specifically or my community. What about you, the dad?
I'm struggling with that one. The only example that I have is, well, I mean, the other day again, I've had multiple examples, and it's in the live, but not out in the real world. Just luckily, I addressed a comment that there was multiple comments happening, and then somebody directed a comment towards another member of the community, and I spoke up, and that person then started directing it at me, which turned into a positive because now they're a permanent member of the community, and it was very unexpected based on what was said in the first place. But it was one of those. Initially, I thought this is going to turn out bad. Should I even address it? Should I just block it? Because it was a couple bad comments to me and then one directed towards somebody else. Like they were looking to start. And I thought, this is a lose situation. I'm just going to say one thing. And it changed my perspective because I then addressed it. The person changed the tune, but still directed a poorly placed comment to me. I can't get too specific. It was not good. And now that person comes into the community and is very supportive of everybody. It was almost like they needed the outlet, and it made me step back and look at it and go, maybe sometimes I am too short-handed with those situations. Maybe I need to be a little more patient, be a little more loving, and like I know moderators are usually pretty quick. If they see something, they're just done. And I'm thankful for everybody that's in there and around me are super supportive, but that situation turned into a positive for everybody involved in my mind, because now that person is now supporting the other people, because I've seen them say some just amazing things to other people. And the way they introduced themselves was not the greatest light, put it that way. I didn't see that. Nobody else saw that. They thought, no, this person doesn't belong. And that changed my perspective on, maybe how quickly or how much I just kind of ignore it. But to me, it was a different situation than the last interaction that I had where the person just said sorry and left. This person actually stayed and became part of the group and now helps support. It's kind of like here, take a bit of my sunshine. And
So I'm trying to get more to maybe I didn't word it right, but I'm trying to so someone comes into your life and negative to you directly, and then the input is someone negative to you directly. The output is you discovering something about yourself that you didn't know as the output. That's more away from community as much as like, but like about you as a person, like how you would handle that extreme negativity that came in one way and then went out with like an actual like change kind of thing. More directed towards that. Like, so for me, I'll let you think on that. So what with me, negative what happened to me was when I started in automotive. A lot of people told me wouldn't make it, would never, like just with who I was very uncoordinated when I started mechanics. Very, very uncoordinated. I couldn't catch a tennis ball with a mitt all day. You could give me an oversized mitt and a handicap. I probably still couldn't catch it. So like zero hand-eye coordination. And so it was one of those where I was told I couldn't do it. I was told I couldn't succeed. And because I know it's something that you train, coordination is something that's with practice, with good practice, everything, right? You just continue to, I realized something about myself, that the opinions about someone and your outlook of your future have no, especially when they're not willing to support it at that moment. And that just kind of made me realize that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be against something that you're excited to do. And so just because your excitement exceeds their expectation or even understanding of why you're so excited to do that, you just do it anyways. Because at the end of your life, you got to live for yourself. And so that was like a big turning point for me and led me. I mean, I would have been still in automotive today if there weren't other things that have affected. But that was one thing that I got over, that hump, that main negativity. And that was a repeated pattern from many people, because at different workplaces, you'd get, whether it's competition, whether it's not seeing the best in others, whatever, but you have people that push you down negatively towards your goals. And you have to kind of realize that just because, I wasn't the most coordinated and I would drop things, do weird stuff. Butterfingers. It's what I got played on that for a long time at 2 different places. And it was it was kind of playful, but at the end of that, as much as it's playful, it's pretty negative, because you come in being that person that's expected to either fail or you exceed the expectations of others. And that led me to the rest of my success actually in the industry, because every time I'd walk into a new place, I knew there was always going to be someone with that same opinion because of the competition. And that just led me to over the hump. And so that allowed me with a big change. And I mean, I turned into someone pretty coordinated and a lot better at the industry. But the biggest thing was just depressing that negative thought of, it's up to you to kind of prove to yourself, not even to prove to them. So that to me was like a big thing that personally helped me develop. Well, that's where I'm just trying to hone in, just to give more precise examples so we can walk through that process of what went on, rather than not really understand the details of the situation, and then we lose the meat and potatoes of like the growth.
I think for me, it's not so much the outside, because since you asked the question, like me giving the example of the person directing it towards me made me kind of refocus and rethink how I react and whether it was too harsh or not harsh enough. So I kind of learned a little bit about myself there, but for the most part, for me, just like where I started this conversation, I think it's mostly internal that causes me, the internal negativity myself causes me to learn more, as opposed to outside. I can't think of a time where I was affected to the point where I really changed much of my perspective. I mean, going through maybe my divorce. But I mean, without getting into specifics, that'd be a tough one. Things that were said to me caused me to reevaluate certain things. But I think that's developed more into me internalizing everything and taking stock of the patterns that got me to what led to that event, and then afterwards. So it's the events surrounding me that don't directly affect me at the time with that negativity don't it's the thought process afterwards, internalizing why I would put myself in that situation and how do I correct that and make it positive, not to repeat those patterns. I think that's I honestly can't think of anything specific outside that. I'll keep
So what
thinking
was
about
like
it.
one valuable thing that like, so what was out of this situation then? What was the most valuable thing that you learned or something that sharpened like your skills for the next situation? Like something directly that the next time you go through this situation, I did it this way on situation A. I have this adjustment. We've done this internalizing. Now we have situation B. What's the learn? What's the difference? Like, where's the contrast? That's kind of like the purpose of that question, right? Is to say, I had something happen to me. Now my life, I will live a little bit differently going forward forever because of this event. Like walking through a doorway. You can't walk back through. Like that doorway goes one way. As soon as that door opens, you walk through it, it neutralizes, you can't go back. I think it's like a huge thing that I think a lot of us don't really realize, that we have events that happen to us in our life that are negative, and they actually help hone in skills and our feelings, our abilities to move forward for the next situation. And if we're not really aware, if we're just kind of like blocking and pushing that negativity away, that's just kind of like repelling that energy that's kind of coming into you. And I find it'll keep finding its way back to you because you've led to learn to live in a certain way, and that leaves like that avenue. And as soon as you kind of figure that out or correct it, it might still come your way, but it might end up, instead of being a rock hitting your windshield, it might be a bug now, and it might just need some more washing. So it becomes like not as much of a blow, but the idea is you've grown from that negative event. So everybody listening, I think that's really important to think about one negative event in your life that taught you something valuable, that led you to lead a better life for yourself. Ultimately, I think that's like a growth challenge. It can be a hard one to answer on the spot for sure.
We end up being a culmination, right? The culmination of the events and what you've learned, hopefully, so you don't recreate the same patterns. But I would have to say, like significantly, would be a relationship loss that changed me because my kids were involved, and how it affects everything around me. So it's my change in perspective and how I turned it to a positive was taking stock of all the events that led up to that, and then making sure that I changed my outlook and changed, I think everybody goes through that, why is this happening to me question when it does.
Yeah.
And
So would you say there was like a defining, other than like having your perception shift, something that like a tool, like something that like, okay, if this happened, this major situation happens again, I can deal with this. Like I'm trying to get, we're trying to, I'm pulling hard now. We're trying to get it out. Just like one thing that you could define that was different than other events.
losing everything and starting over. What it ultimately led to, and it was a build up to that, and then me going, okay, well, I can't continue like this. What have I done up to this point? And that caused a major shift in me and how I was, and ultimately grateful. And that led to that's what started me on being grateful. Was a catastrophic failure led to grateful. So I guess that would be the event that caused the mindset shift, but it wasn't immediate. It was the realization of having nothing, working all my life to that point, to building everything, and then having nothing and nobody. And then that change, like we could all just go, oh, well, that's it. I'm done. It's over. And
Yeah.
it turned into being grateful for good morning and, being able to get up and go to work. And that, I think that event would be the biggest thing that I could put my thumb on to say, yeah, that's a shift change in how you deal with a negative environment and negativity directed towards you, because there was a ton of it in that situation, and to turn it into a positive of, I'm going to keep moving forward.
So gratitude, I guess, is what I.
I think if there's an ultimate weapon against negativity, it might be gratitude.
I think the weapon would be understanding, right?
Yeah, I was just really trying to, that defining moment that just gets you to just look at life differently, right? There's always that one or two moments that really change, even not emotionally, but just your life, like structurally, like how you go about your day now, how, what you see as new life goals. And I think that's always important to stay positive about that when it comes to negativity.
That
I'm gonna
definitely
run.
gave me new life goals.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, I'm gonna run right to the other room. 1 second. Be right back.
How about you, Bite?
Well, I've had a few changes in my life that were negative. Some were medical, right? Changed my outcome of like what is and what can be done every day. Um, better understanding of, your new reality or your new like zero level, right? Because me at 19 and me now, totally different view, totally different vision.
Mm.
I'm now looking for, planning for retirement. Where at 19, I wasn't even thinking about that kind of thing, right? Changes in my life, watching my parents and what they're going through now. I don't want to be in that situation. So, I have different views and different thoughts that have altered me. And again, with what happened at the beginning with somebody who is completely opposite to what my community and like what I have to be true to myself, meeting somebody that is the opposite of that, and trying to navigate through that, right? Changed my entire view of how I should judge everybody going forward.
You know what? Actually, I do have something that was kind of, and it's relationship based. It's oddly enough, when I was recently single, I I met somebody on an app, not this one, and it was one of those, I've never done it before, I'm going to try it, and I ended up having a conversation, and obviously the intent from this person was to have a date, and mine was not because I wasn't there yet. But we had a lovely conversation, and they had lost their partner of 13 or 14 years, a year and a half prior, young children as well. And the conversation was life changing to me because their point of view changed. It helped change my point of view. So it was I asked the question, which you always have to, tread lightly. Do you mind if I ask what happened to your partner? And they said, and this was, I think, a life-changing response that changed my point of view. I love it when people ask about my partner. It was a very tragic incident. But they were my person, they were my everything. And that's not something you expect, especially coming from like that source, like where you've met this person, right? It was my introduction to that online arena. And I had to swallow it for a minute, not expecting that. And they went into this extremely long story of every detail you could imagine and just the amount of love that came out of that message. But it was something that negative that happened in obviously life altering event. But their outlook was, I would love to talk to you about it. And I don't know this person other than a brief conversation. And it was just, I think that for me was, it helped change my perspective. So I didn't have it immediately, but like now that I think about it, that was probably the biggest thing that I've had in recent time that would change my outlook on things. Like it didn't matter how bad things got or how bad it was. That person was willing to just come forth with this glow of positivity and great gratuity, like for everything, and then give that to somebody else. Like just here, fill your cup with this amazing sentiment of something that they lost. So that for me, I think that would be the most significant example that I could, and it wasn't negativity directed, but it was a negative situation. But they've turned it into something grateful, which caused me to have a major shift in what I'm grateful for, like the good and the bad. I think to learn to be grateful for the good stuff and the bad stuff, because if the bad stuff didn't happen, we wouldn't know what the good stuff was. So it's kind of like growing up through it and prorating your scale as you go through.
I truly believe that the negative things in the world are learning opportunities for both people or groups of people or whatever the situation might be. Whether they need to learn something or whether you need to learn something from that situation. But a negative can always be turned into a positive. Always. No matter how serious the negativity might be. Right? For like your example, that one person was speaking very positively of a really tragic situation. But their version of grieving is keeping them alive by talking about them and talking about the positivity that they shared together. And that the hope that you can find somebody that you can talk positively about as well, right? Like that's that outcome of what you were just talking about. And I do truly believe that negative has to happen because otherwise we don't grow as humans, like you, me, everybody, right? It's how we perceive and how we process is really what the options we have to deal with.
Yeah, it's absolutely huge. 100%. Well, how many people don't shoot for trying to be perfect or trying to do a really good job, despite being a perfectionist or not, right? We all look to hit 10 out of 10 if we can as a person to the best of our ability, right? So that's something
And it's
that
okay to fall.
Pardon?
It's okay to fall. You know? Well, today I only got a 1 out of 10. Get up, dust your knees and shoes off and start again.
What about predicting negativity? Like your awareness to avoiding situations or prejudging, as little as I want to say that word, but prejudging is part of prediction.
the key term you said for me that popped into my mind was avoidance. I am pretty good at avoiding negativity when possible. Sometimes it comes too fast and I can't avoid it. But my natural instinct is to try to steer away as much as possible. Because I'm a person who tries to walk the light, meaning that I'm a person who tries to spread as much positivity around as possible, to as many people as possible. Because I feel that for me, that's a life goal, is to try to stay as positive as I can for as long as possible. And I find that it's difficult to hit negativity head on when you're a person like that, because it's an instant clash. It's a clash of your morals, your structure, your whole being. And for me to take negativity on, like full on run right into it, it takes everything I got to try to evaluate and educate that situation. Whether that's trying to inform somebody else or trying to inform my own self, like, was I the cause of that negativity, or was it just displayed to me and there's an issue with that person? And that's why I choose to avoid as much as I can, because if I were to take on every person's negativity, I'd get overwhelmed. So I think that answered your question.
So
Predicting is very difficult. I think it has to do a lot with mindset. Like, we all have that what if, what if the worst happens, or what if this happens? But I think it's you learn, it's like a skill, you learn it over time to try and look at how good could it be, not how bad could it be. Like, it's you can never stop or predict what's going to happen from outside, but heading into situations, it's kind of like the anxiety thing. So the avoidance on one hand is almost impossible. You can't always see what's coming, but when you're heading into situations that potentially could be negative, it's a point of view type thing. You know what I mean? It's how you view the situations that you're going into. Like, some people think maybe they got family members that are always negative, and they're going to a family function and they're just waiting for that negativity.
So like patterns.
Yeah.
Like known patterns.
So you go into it and you think, well, I'm not going to let it affect me, but it's still there. It's present. So it's kind of like a learned tolerance skill thing, but you're predicting. Whereas I found myself in a situation similar to that at a family event and with a negative person, and it was me changing how I went into it. And oh my God, it turned out so much better than I thought. It was a positive event. It's like something happened in their world that caused the change. And it was just this great, fantastic day out of nowhere. But it was the presumption was there that the negativity was coming at first. And I thought, well, you know what? I'm just going to forget about it. But there's always that back of the mind thought. So I don't know if it's something like that ties in with anxiety. If you can hand in hand negativity and anxiety, if that's something that causes it like that. But it was take a breath, relax. There's not going to be any, and walk in, and it turned out better than I'd even hoped. So avoidance is definitely it's definitely one way to do it. Yeah.
So from like learning the hard way.
Yep.
Yeah, so what about trying to think of like how to word something like on the for either of you, like the predictive side. So avoidance and inevitable, it's gonna happen. So how do you predict something brand new, like something that's never had, like how do you work on that kind of thing? So like trying to like trying to take like that forward looking approach to analyzing that situation before it happens, but it's not something you've done before. So that's like a big angle of negativity, right? We often take in life.
It's
So
I
do
think
you-
that's the worry.
Just to clarify, do you mean like person A sitting here spewing drama out of their mouth and you're being like, that person's full of drama, I should avoid that person or avoid confrontation with that person? Is that kind of what you mean?
It could be that. Just something that you're gonna have to handle. Like it's either at you or going to affect you. So just like think of, I don't know, like, and that's what's hard about this question. It's something that may not have happened to you or happened so frequently.
How about an example? Like
Well,
a driving test, and you've heard that the driver instructor has failed everybody previously, and now you have to go. That type of situation. Like,
Yeah.
how would you approach that?
Yeah, like something that is like more than likely going to be negative, and then everything around that, like negativity is coming your way no matter what.
so character building and analyzing is probably my number one trait, right? Is getting a good feel for a person. If I'm questioning whether or not, they will be always negative, I usually put like a little mind red flag and being like, I'm gonna be watching you. And I'm gonna watch your pattern. I'm gonna watch how you communicate with others. That doesn't work if somebody you've just met. However, but in the situations of meeting somebody brand new and they're already coming at me with like that kind of energy, it's a read the room kind of situation for me. If I can feel the tension of a room with a knife, like that whole saying, I usually be like, okay, not for me, and I usually back out relatively quickly. So again, coming up to the avoidance thing. If I don't have a choice in the matter, though, usually all my walls go up and I go in full tilt. So I'll meet their energy with my energy, and we'll dance, sort of situation. If I'm forced to go handsy cuffsies, so to speak, but I try to avoid that because I don't like that for my life. I think that sums it
Not
up
an easy
pretty
one.
well.
Not an easy one.
No.
It's kind of like a confidence killer. It's kind of like you trying to build a sandcastle, and you go down to get some water to wet, and you get holes in your bucket. As you get closer and closer to the situation, you got less and less water to wet the sand with, right? It drains you the more and more you focus on it. So I don't know. I build the sandcastle closer to the beach, or closer to the water. That's my theory behind it. Like, I go in, like, as far as predicting it, I used to stress and have anxiety over stuff like that all the time. Think the worst is going to happen. What if I go do this, based on limited knowledge or not? I think for the most part, I just don't worry anymore about stuff like that. I don't think, oh, this is going to be amazing all the time. I'm generally neutral. But as far as predicting the negativity, I kind of always look at it is what it is type, like you say in your life, like whatever's going to happen, it happens, and then deal with it after, whether it's negative or positive, but learn from the negative or, build on the positive part. I used to be always predicting the negative. I was always, oh, that's the worst thing is going to happen. And when it didn't, it was great, but that was my mindset. That has shifted quite heavily in the past few years to whatever's in front of me. That's what's going to happen, and then deal with the outcome after. It ages you quickly.
Huh.
I'm 22.
Excuse me.
No, that's I think that's like going to be the common answer of everyone though, right? Like we're going to look at like the patterns and stuff that have had, and that's kind of like the purpose of that question is kind of no matter how much we're going to try to wrap our way around a forward looking approach, we're built off of patterns and habits, right? And so that was actually the purpose of that question is as much as we try to like look forward, we're all built on what's already happened to us. And so that the reason for that is we're actually like even the patterns of negativity that happen, right? They all kind of we all get kind of like I'm gonna lose my train of thought. The negativity is always going to be there, like one way or the other, right? And the I think the art of it is being able to see every situation with a fresh mindset as much as you can, because the patterns of everything that have happened will often haunt us and create these situations that lead to some pretty extreme scenarios that likely don't happen, right? And so that was just the purpose of saying, hey, negativity is actually like it's always surrounding us, and it is how we judge, how we decide to handle it, right? But the biggest thing is all three of us would come up with the same answer 100 times. It's all based on what we know and our patterns and what's happened to us. And so it's using that only enough to guide us, but leaving ourselves as naive as possible, right? For that change to occur. Because just like we've grown, how do we know when that person that we're dealing with or that situation hasn't changed or evolved to get better as well? So it's just like the open perspective of growth out of that black hole that chases us all.
For me, it's more, what have you done to me? I don't really judge what others have done to me to specific people, but if you've always treated me positively, I'm going to expect that you're always going to be positive. At least towards me.
Well, so the example was like, so it was back to like the predictive, right? So it's like, you don't even know this person, or this person hasn't done anything to you yet, right? It's like that, but you know negativity is going to come your way. So it's like, you have to feel that out based on your patterns, but that person is almost like a fresh example, if that makes more sense.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, because you're so positive towards me, I'm not going to put that towards the dad, for example, right? You guys are different, and how you treat me is different, and how I perceive each of you is different. Even though, so I take that same approach to brand new people as well. It's like I give them the opportunity to treat me with respect until they don't treat me with respect. And then I don't treat them with respect because they've broken that bond.
It's very predominant. Like it hinges a lot on self-awareness too, because you could be that negative point and not realize it.
That's true.
Without you, because if you haven't recognized the patterns that you've created and you don't understand why people are negative towards you. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. I would drive every day to locations. I would be on the road every day, thousands of miles every year, 100,000, whatever, because I drive different places and fix. My friend is also a driver. He drives every day, and he would have confrontations every other day. And I said to him, why is it that I drive in the same area as you and I don't have confrontations every day, whereas you seem to be out of your vehicle either throwing hands or having a verbal altercation, or at least at the very least like hand gestures or rolling down the window and interacting with people in an unkind way. I said, is it the other people or is it you? And he kind of went, well, no, it's not me. I said, well, I'm not driving anything different or going anywhere. Like, if people are interacting with me in a certain way, are you choosing to react? And are you that instigator? Are you that negative source? Or is it just the universe's way of everything always finds you? Like, it's what patterns, like you said, the pattern recognition, were built off that. And he changed his mindset afterwards, and it did get less frequent, but he did realize, and he called me back a couple weeks later and apologized. He's like, yeah, I'm that guy. And I went, I wasn't trying to point it out. I'm just trying to get you to recognize that maybe everybody's not out to get you. Maybe it's something that you're putting out. And
Okay.
that's that self-awareness thing, right? Am I bringing stuff that I don't realize is negative into a situation? Is that what's causing it? So we really need to look at us first.
I agree and I disagree. And I'm having trouble with that because I can get negativity by just going and walking down the street and holding a hand of somebody else. Now, is that my fault because I'm holding my hand and showing positivity to my partner? I don't think so. I think that's the other person's negativity trying to reflect. I'm just using that as an example only because I'm struggling with that because like it happens to me often. Like when I'm going and just doing my own thing and then somebody coming up and being like, is that really appropriate? Like, what? So like I understand where you're coming from there, but I'm also having problems because some people like even though it's a positive thing, like I'm not being negative in that situation at all, but it's bringing out somebody else's negativity. So am I the real problem there though? I don't think I am.
No, I see where you agree and where you disagree with that 100%. But there's also some similarities and some differences with that situation, I think. And you are 100% not attracting negativity by doing that. That's like saying the girl dressed, in a certain way going out is attracting, negative reactions from other
Yeah, that
people.
pretty black dress.
Yeah, she's definitely not. She's wearing it because it makes her feel good. You're doing what you do because it makes you feel good. It's a mannerism, right? It's how other people react. So was his driving style or the way he looked at people or, what he was doing, how he put out that energy, that was attracting stuff. Like if you drive aggressively or if you just look like that resting bitch face, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how he looked out the window at people or if he's just like, hey, how are you? Or if he's waving other things, but you're definitely not doing that. So in your situation, yeah, I can see, why you would struggle with that and offer up that. Am I doing something? You're definitely not in the wrong there. It's unfortunate that you have to deal with that because you're definitely not putting out a negative at all. That's a positive thing. Like you're out in the world showing affection to whoever. So that should be a positive thing. It should radiate and people should suck it in. But unfortunately, that's not the world we live in. And
Yeah, it's just difficult, right? Because like, how do you draw that line, too, right? Because I've had that conversation in my own head about, like, is it me? Am I the problem? Like, what about what I'm doing is so negative towards so many different people? And is it situational? Like, is it because I live where I live? Right? Mm-hmm. These are all things that go through my head every day.
And there's no real answer to that one. That's like the hard part.
Oh,
with that.
Of course not.
No, I know you're not looking for an answer. I'm just saying, like, and that's the hard part with it, right? There's no real, and that's part of those questions, right? Negativity is going to come your way, and then how are you planning to handle something that's literally inevitable, whether it be a new person, a new event, but around that topic, right? It's like a huge thing, I think, for all of us, because we all have events in our life that continue to haunt us, whether we want to admit to it or not. Right? But we all have events in our life that are continuing to haunt us and that are affecting whether it be our mood, whether it be our productivity, whether it be our atmosphere, our community, right? But that's a big question for everyone that's listening, right? There can't be nothing. Like that can't be a zero in your life. Like that's almost impossible. And I'm not trying to be negative about that, but that's trying to be positive, thinking of to say that you must have something in your life that you can think about that'll lead you to growth. And that's something that's uncontrollable that comes your way. So to prepare for that, I think makes you into a little bit, I don't know, not to make yourself overthink, but just to be a little bit analytical about it. If that's the right word, right?
Yeah, self-aware. You have to be aware of what you're doing for sure, what you're trying to correct, what potentially are you doing wrong. Does it need to be corrected?
In some
Yeah,
situations,
but like, yeah, what I'm trying to get away from though is like more to lean towards Bite Boss is like, there's nothing you can do to change. You're being you, you're being positive. You haven't done anything wrong, and you actually haven't. What's something that's just going to continually, like, you can't do anything personally to fix it other than ignore it. And you can't ignore the negativity. I think that's like the big thing, right? Is there's
you
all,
have to be cold to it, stone cold.
well, and that's going to be how everyone, you know, you're going to have to numb it out at some point, right? But it's the other pieces of how it affects you and what, you know, are you going to validate that negativity? That is the other thing. Some people validate that, like they hear negativity and they start validating it, and it's not even valid in the, like, wasn't even worth to hear, yet alone to validate. But then that's part of that predictive, right? So I just a huge.
Do you entertain it? Do you start a conversation? Do you direct any energy towards it, or do you ignore it? It's situational, like we talked about before. It's
Yeah.
so difficult.
Also
Yeah,
depends on if the other person's willing to listen, because it's all point of view based, right? Like everything negative can be a positive, and everything positive can be a negative. It all depends about perception.
Yeah, and that could be part of that predictive nature, right? Right? Do I have an idea of whether the other side of this situation is going to be receptive? Right? If you battle something physical that you can't really, like, you know, for example, monetary, you know, that could negatively affect someone. It's not something you can turn around and yell at, and it's not going to yell at you, but it might affect you very negatively, right? So how are you going to handle that, right? And now it becomes, you have to change your perception, or you have to change something around this negative. But the whole purpose is to look for something negative that you can't control, right? Out of your, it's an outside coming in, not an inside internal destruction.
Yeah, how do you decipher where the negativity is coming to? Like in Bite's situation, like, is that person upset about the dynamic, or are they upset that, you know, is it jealousy because you have something that they don't? Like you never know what drives the negativity until you hear the actual negativity, right?
Depends. Even it could be deflection too, right? Maybe they're hurtful on the inside that they can't display what they truly feel. You really don't know.
Yeah, and that's the whole purpose of trying to just handle that, right? Is trying to hit all those areas that allows you to get through it yourself, knowing that you didn't really do anything to cause it. I like this. This was great. You guys have any closing statements?
I would say my closing statement's going to be, you know, just remember that if something negative happens towards you, that it may not necessarily be you specifically, meaning that the comment may not be directed towards you. It may be a reflection of themselves. You have to consider that when reading said comment. And you can ask for clarification in light upon said comment, but to help yourselves get out of that negativity mode is always just go, was that directed towards me, or was that a reflection of someone else? They're projecting because ... And it always helps me with that. Bring me more towards the positive side of that negativity and just drowning in it.
Love it. I love that. The dad's got 2 closing statements.
I did, but that I kind of lost my train of thought on the first one.
That's all right.
After hearing bites. I had an experience this morning where I'm sure we all open up our app and see DMs, and it was from somebody that hadn't been around in a while, and it was that initial negative thought, right? It's a DM, but like it's somebody that had become part of the community, and I thought, should I open this before I go live? And I was struggling between opening the message and going into my friend's live to support them before coming here, and I decided to open the message, and like what what a friggin' message it was! It was unbelievably amazing, super positive. Nothing but thank you for the community, all that stuff, and apologies for not being around, and just like way to blow sunshine up the wazoo type moment, and it would, and they're struggling going through what a situation they have, and like family member issues and all that stuff, but still took the time to blow positivity in another direction. So I had to respond. I had to take the time. Like you run around doing a million things and you got a deadline to meet. And yeah, it was quite the change. So amazing morning. And then I think I don't really have a statement. It's more of a question. What do you think moving forward you can do to change, if anything, the reaction or yeah, your reaction to the negativity around you moving forward? Do you think you can do anything better, or do you think you're moving in the right direction with how you've been doing it? And I think that's a sit on it and think question, kind of like we've done at the end of every week. We've given us stuff to think about.
Love it.
What about you, Zan?
Um, Most people, I think, when we see negativity, we often somehow want to search for a solution. I think that's natural. Whether that solution be to ignore, handle, whatever. And I think dealing with that, being strategic about every situation, is important to remember that they're individual, and filtering those experiences as best as we can with a fresh mindset to handle negativity, I think would be the best thing, is to always look at, as much as it's a hard thing to do, looking at every negative event with as fresh of a mindset as you can, so that we can look for maybe that root and then discover whether it's kind of on us, from them, and where those intentions are, to kind of look for some growth. Because I will root back. I think a lot of negativity stems from an unknown, a hurt, a previous event, but typically it wouldn't start from sunshine and rainbows. So that, I think that's the important thing for everyone to remember, is to establish new events, whether they be negative or positive, with that fresh mindset. Maybe that'll allow you to realize that sometimes it's not even about you or about them. It might be about a situation or something we can. That's, I think everyone, that's what I'll continue to think about this week. That's for sure.
And the fact that we're on Spotify now.
Yeah.
That was pretty awesome.
So everyone,
And iHeartRadio.
Really?
slowly.
Very cool. Very cool.
I think that wraps it up, right, gentlemen?
Sure does.
Well, hope everyone has a great week, and we'll see you guys next week.
Always a pleasure, guys.
Yes.
Have a great day.
Smiles, everyone. Bye.
See you.